So here we are, Anne. So here is the deal. Um, Writing a book is really, really hard. And it is for a lot of people. Like, I've been working with clients for so long who have talked about, like, I really want to write a book. Like, oh my gosh, if I could just be an author. And to be honest, Anne, it has never really been like that kind of a thing for me. Like, I've never been like, oh my gosh, if I could just write a book, like, that would make me so incredibly happy. Um, and and I'm even going to be a little bit more honest that there is a little part of me that felt like for a lot of people, like the idea of writing a book was a little bit of like a vanity thing, a vanity marker of like, okay, I just want to be an author. Like, I just want to do this. But it felt like, what is your real goal? Is it just to like, is it to help people, or is it this vanity thing to like write a book? And so there's been this part of me that's like push pull piece. I think the other part too is that I've really struggled with this idea of, like, as someone who teaches people a lot, like, there are so many different ways to teach people. Like, is a book the way when we have blogs now and we have webinars and we have courses and we have all these other ways of being? Like, what is so special about like a Kindle book or like a physical book that is going to actually like move the needle in terms of like people transforming?
Mm.
And I think that I had, when we went into this process of writing this book, I kind of had this internal sense that, oh, this is going to be something for people who have never met us and who don't know how we can help and that are not exposed to what we do. It's going to be this like new avenue for people to get to know us, to lead them to our webinars or to our courses or to these other things. And like maybe there might be more speaking engagements or what have you, although we get asked to speak pretty regularly.
So
And
I have to say something. I have,
yes,
I have to interject. So I have never wanted to star on Broadway. Like some people say, I've always dreamed of
yeah.
being on Broadway and singing. Like that has never even entered my mind. I don't even like Broadway shows, right? So the fact that you didn't have the dream that a lot of people happen to have, which is I want to write a book, I want to be an author. Lots of people have that. Certainly I run into them, multiple times a day. I've always wanted to write a book. And it's interesting what you say. There are so many vehicles to share your message, and there are so many vehicles that you can teach and influence and impact and guide people, right? You write for psychotherapists, you write for mental health professionals who enter this world wanting to teach and guide and help and inspire and support people. So, are there a percentage of people in your industry who want to end up in, on Super Soul Sunday sitting across from Oprah, or who want the big, $30,000 speaking engagements? Do they want to be the next, you know, um, big name? Do they want to be Brene Brown? Do they want to be, Esther Perel? Like there are people who have that drive. Maybe part of it is ego, right? Where we wouldn't be business people if we didn't have an element of ego. Maybe this is their opportunity to reach a bigger audience, to have more impact. And, you know, if their ego is involved, does that nullify the rest of that? I
I
don't
don't
I don't think so, right?
I don't think it does. I don't think it does, but I will say, like, I was really shocked at the impact that our book has already made. Like, I cannot express to you, Anne, how shocked I was in the impact of this and what my experience has been, even just a few weeks into having the books into hands of, I mean, honestly, people that already know us. I got on a coaching call with one of our longtime clients who has been progressing, but has been like stuck in some pretty significant ways. And as soon as we got on the call, this person who in the past has said, yeah, I need to make this change, but this, but that, but this, but that, but this, but that, you know, maybe in August, maybe in November, like the thing keeps kind of moving out. And she gets on the call and she says, I'm ready to do the thing. I'm ready to start from scratch. I feel like I'm just ready to do. And she holds up the book, and the book is got all of these little like marks in it, all of these post-its through the entire thing, like little flags of pinks and blues and whatever. And she's like, I've been up all night reading this and I couldn't sleep. And it's me on the page. And I have been feeling like I'm the only one, and that like what I was feeling was abnormal. And now suddenly, like, I realize like what I'm feeling is totally normal, that there is a plan, that I have felt like there's no way out. And I know now that there's a way out. In other words, she'd been feeling this like deep sense of shame about her burnout, and the feelings that were under there of like frustration and not feeling connected to her clients were keeping her stuck from making any changes because she felt so much guilt and shame. And suddenly, just even though we'd been talking about all these issues, we had been sharing, we had been giving her all these things and these like even person to person, but suddenly like seeing it on paper as something different and hearing other people's stories, like it unlocked her. And it
That,
was like,
so that
oh,
answers your question. That answers a question right there.
yeah.
You were saying, all right, with so much content out there, there are podcasts and there are blog posts and there's this. So all of this information is accessible.
Yeah.
Even when you conduct a course, like when we first all put together courses, we're hyper aware that all this material is out there, you know, on the internet. You can find it, it's free. And here we are, we're gathering, we're curating it, we're shaping it, we're making sense of it, we're finding the through line, the path that is going to lead our readers to a deeper understanding of an issue that they recognize they have, right? So if you hadn't compiled this and shaped it and thought through, well, what are the big three elements at play here? And in what order do we want to address each of these elements? You know, we're not going to address our money mindset issues before we get to the training, before we get to our upbringing, in your case as therapists, right? And then you're running a business. So we still, you know, like if we started with the business part first, then you lose people because they're like, wait, I'm burnt out. Why are we talking about business? But so how you are bringing your reader into the issue and how you are revealing how the problems becomes a problem, and then how to recognize the elements, and then suddenly to feel like, oh, I fix this, but 80% of my problem with whatever is overwhelming me and causing me to burn out is gone.
Yeah.
So we're in the book, we're creating that path that allows people to relax and go, oh, they got it. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see it. And that, you know, that's a gift of a book. And you're also allowing people to feel you and experience you, because like we want to know on the other side of our let's call it issues, right? For a lack of a better word. On the other side of our issues are people who get us, who've either experienced it themselves or have worked with so many people with this problem, they may as well have experienced them themselves, so that when somebody is showing up with this problem, the shame goes away because you're not dealing with someone who goes, hey, dummy, yeah, you need to do this and this and this. It's like, yeah, we get it. Here's how this stuff happens. And by the way, I was reading your book, segments of this book, to a friend who I'm pretty sure is burnt out, another entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like commiserating, like at the end of the year, we were all really, really tired. And I said, look, I think we're in stage 6 of the burnout model, right? It's somewhere between stage 6 or 7. Are you feeling like, you're dealing with dumb people, that nobody's doing it right? Are you really cynical? Like, oh. So we were going through the 12-step model, identifying where we were on the burnout scale.
Yeah.
Funny, but not funny. So even entrepreneurs, not just people who are running a therapy practice, go through the same thing. Maybe the training's a little bit different, but a lot of the impulses of why we get into business to begin with are still there and at play. And I've had therapist friends over for the weekend, and we've all gone through the book and we've debated. Like, if you have 45, you're seeing 45 patients a week, not burnt out. So that was like the topic of conversation with one of our friends who sees 45 patients a week. Not burnt out. Why? And it was fascinating, peeling back why this therapist was not burnt out.
But I think that, to me, that says like there's a lot of privileges that person has. I'm going to make a guesstimate that person doesn't have small children, right? Just straight up, right? Doesn't have small children. I'm going to make a guesstimate that this person is probably not doing a ton of like social justice, other work, or community involvement. Like, this is their whole thing. And I'm going to make a guess that this person is probably an ambivert, meaning that they get energy by having
massive extrovert.
Pardon?
Massive extrovert.
Massive extrovert. So that's interesting to me. But it's that piece of, they're an extrovert. There's something that they're really getting about that communication that's happening in there. Usually massive extroverts get a little bit bored. So I'm curious about what their ideal client looks like. There's something about the ideal client that's really feeding into the relationship part of it, and that they're not getting bored. So they're probably not dealing with like depressed clients. They're probably dealing with clients that there's a significant amount of energy and engagement. I might even guess, this would be like a wild guess, by the way, because I have no idea who you're talking about, that they might even work with like borderline personality disorder individuals.
Would that be invigorating?
For some people, if I'm an extrovert and I really like the engagement and attention, like for me, it wouldn't be necessarily invigorating, but for somebody else, where like I'm an extrovert and I really like the relational aspect, like being in that relational piece all the time, because borderline clients are not boring, like not even a little bit. Like, there's so much that's like
narcissists too are not boring people. They're very charismatic.
I think, I can't imagine, but I would be floored if this person was like a significant, and I say borderline, but again, there's different ways to treat it, but a significant, I just want to work with trauma and intense trauma. Usually those individuals can't do 45 clients a week. Solution focused therapists, I think, could do 45 patients a week, where it's just like, come in, we're going to dive into what you're looking for. But again, I think that piece of, there's a privilege in that, right? For me, and having even a 16-year-old in high school, to see 45 clients a week, right? And to co-parent and know that I'm the primary parent half of the year or half of the week or what have you. That's 45 hours. And if I don't have staff to take care of all the rest of it, that's really 60 or 70 hours a week, right? When you have progress notes and you have phone calls and what have you. The other thing that could mitigate that, right? 45 hours a week means, hopefully, for most people, that you have a receptionist, you have someone taking care of any of the billing, they're doing the phone calls and your email, and somebody's taking care of all the rest of it, and you just come in and you do this piece, right? That's the other option too.
Right. So I mentioned the book. I was in a day-long workshop on New Year's Day, and I happened to be in a group breakout with a therapist who had this. She was in her office. It was this beautiful office, and she said, "Oh, I've always wanted to write a book." And I told her, "Oh, I just, finished working on this amazing book about burnout." And I don't know how the topic got on this onto this, but she said, "Yeah, I've been working all the time to pay my back tax bill."
Mm.
And I said, "Oh, you need this book." She
Mhm.
said, "Really? Why?" And I said, "Well, let me tell you now that I'm an expert. What, where business owners, in particular, private practice solopreneurs, running a therapy practice, where they get into trouble and why they get into trouble that way and what that looks like." And I said, it's so common
Yeah.
for people to have tax bill issues. Like, there are so many stories that I was reading about therapists who were getting in trouble and were like constantly playing catch up
Yeah.
with their tax bill. And I'm like, oh, this just for the business model and just for.
Just for that one piece of the taxes, not to mention the my laptop broke or something happened with my lease and now my rent has gone up, and like there's no wiggle room. There's no room to get sick. There's no room to take a vacation. There's no room for an employee to, move on and quit or whatever the dynamics is. Like there's no room. And we create these dynamics where we feel like really stuck. And then on top of all of that, most therapists are not taking care of student loans. Like they're in income, I forget what it's called, but like reduced repayment. And so you're in the space where you're just paying a portion of the interest while more interest is accruing. And you're kind of like paying these student loans forever. And for most therapists, they say, I'm never going to pay off my student loans. Now, the student loan that you invested in so that you have this specific skill, but you don't believe you should be able to charge to repay the training that you got. Like you wouldn't see that in an electrician. You wouldn't see that in a plumber, that they would say, well, I went to plumbing school, but like I'm going to have to be saddled with this debt for the rest of life. They would say, no, I need to make sure I pay for this, and I need to pay for my truck, and I need to pay for my tools. I need to pay for my staff. So here's how much it is. And in many cases, plumbers are charging more than therapists with master's degrees.
All right. So here's my question. Just
Yeah.
like I love how like minds work and whatnot. I kind of wonder if you're a therapist and you are all about helping other people and giving your all in the service of other people, if there isn't a magical thinking part of you that feels that it's if the world were fair,
Hmm.
then there would not be this big requirement on you to pay back that student loan because you are in full service. It's almost like being in the Peace Corps or the AmeriCorps and
Yeah.
giving. So how would that be expected to be? Like, why wouldn't that be compensated for you? Because if you're willing to give your all, why wouldn't the system be willing to give their all in return? What do you think?
I think there's a piece of that for some people. And I think there's also a certain amount. This is a little bit spicier of a.
It's dicey, right? We're conjecturing.
Well, no, I'm going to say this is a spicier explanation, that there are a lot of therapists that come in and we live in a broken world. And sometimes we live in a world where we always come last. And so we replicate that in other areas. So if I always feel like, because my experience has always been, I'm never going to be okay. My family wasn't okay. Nobody was okay. Like, this is the dynamic of it. The idea of living without debt or being able to charge, or even that idea that, like, well, I can't afford, or I don't think other people should have to pay this much for therapy. And so I'm going to fix the system. I'm going to fix all of this by making therapy accessible, right? By undercharging or maybe I have a viewpoint that I'm not good enough or I'm not capable of doing math, when that's not the case, right? We're all capable of kind of doing the math of it. There's all these different little blocks that we have internally where we say, well, I can't. Like, one of the big ones that I've seen, especially over those last several years during the pandemic, is, hey, I can't do that because insurance companies aren't giving people what they need, and I want to make therapy accessible, so I'm going to fill in the gap. Now, here's this weird sort of dynamic, right? Is, let's say, and this is kind of a real example, there are therapists that are in Los Angeles County, right, that are getting reimbursed like $68 for the most common CPT code, right? Cost of living in Los Angeles, insane. In Conway, Arkansas, therapists could be and is being reimbursed double that, right? Yeah, right? But again, it's this space of, well, what do I do? How does this work, right? Like, how does this mentally work? Well, what mentally happens is that these insurance companies, based on the number of therapists that are available and based on what therapists will say yes to, they adjust their expenses, meaning your contract, based on what you will say yes to. Based on what you will say yes to. Now, during 2020, during the height of a global pandemic, the health insurance companies in the United States as a whole, like, this is kind of them all clumped together, they made more in 2020 than Amazon. And Amazon had their best year ever during the pandemic, right? So this profitability, I need to make sure, I need to make therapy accessible by saying yes to a contract, even when the contract is completely inaccessible to me, even when it does not allow me to rent a room, right? A lot of therapists that accept these contracts have kind of the privilege of doing so because they have a partner who is subsidizing these insurance contracts. They're subsidizing your career. This is the other thing that happens, is people say, well, I just need some private pay clients to help me get through, right? So another way to look at this is, if I have, let's say I need to make on average $100 per session, and I have half insurance clients and I have half private pay. If the insurance is reimbursing at $50, this is just for easy math, then for me to be profitable or to be sustainable, I need to charge private pay clients $150, right? Now, am I really making insurance accessible by accepting this insurance contract at $50? Or am I asking private pay clients to subsidize the insurance's completely unsustainable rates? Is that what's really happening? And these insurance companies are really freaking profitable. They are for-profit organizations. So what does it look like when we say, you know what, I'm going to really sit down and think about what it takes for me to be a great therapist? And that includes having a roof over my head. It includes being able to pay down my student loans. It includes being able to be sick when I'm sick, to take vacations, to go to trainings, to get consultations. It includes all of these things. Let me do the math on that. And let me then look at how many clients I can really see and be fully connected based on my particular privileges in life, right? You mentioned your friend, 45 clients a week, it works. What's the dynamic of it? Hey, it works for him energetically. He's an extrovert. Hey, he doesn't have small children at home, right? He probably has somebody who's a housekeeper as well that like takes care of the house, like all these different like pieces that give him the privilege to say, yeah, I can do 45 clients a week, right? Whereas somebody else who has 3 small children and is seeing trauma clients and is an introvert, they had to be really honest. For me to do good work, I could really see 13 clients a week. And I can do amazing work with them in like this deep, impactful way that is transformational. That, again, not that this person that's seeing 45 clients doesn't do good work, but he does different work. And his work works for the clients it works for, and it doesn't for the clients it doesn't. Right?
I want to talk about why you guys were the right people to write this book. Seriously, because I know you. I know you through your book, and I know you through your business and how you serve your people. I know how you serve your people.
Mhm.
And I think I see this big backlash out there right now, and deservedly so, of the hustle culture.
Mhm.
And, the idea is that you're supposed to grind harder and double down and triple down, and that's how you become successful. But when you're writing this book, you're talking about the three hats that you as a private practice owner wear, and a big hat that you're wearing is being a human being and serving the human being, because without serving the human being, everything else falls apart.
Mhm.
And that's, we forget when we're building something, we forget ourselves.
Yeah.
It's really common to do that. And we think that's a normal part of business building. But you and Kelly are such great models of walking the talk,
Mm.
that you serve and serve and serve, and then you take time off to take care of yourselves and to be interested in the world and interesting, to have different experiences that fill you up, so that when you return and you're serving and serving and serving, and you too serve massively, and not at the complete expense of who you are as humans. So I think if anybody is going to serve a therapist or somebody in the practices of healing practices, of how to take care of yourself so you can serve other people and serve them well without hustling to burnout, it would be you too. And I know that was
Mm.
one that you didn't know how to do that. You had to learn how to do that.
Yeah, no, we both have experienced burnout. I experienced burnout just even in grad school. I mean, I worked full time, I went to school full time, and I very vividly remember the first time that I like hit burnout, and I didn't know the stages and I didn't know any of the other pieces. I just knew that I was literally watching myself after a session going in to complain to other people at work who weren't even in my department. So it wasn't even like a real ethical, like we worked with the same client. So there's room, but there wasn't anything like clinically relevant for me to go and just complain about this client. And I'm going in and I'm watching myself. I'm like, Miranda, what are you doing? Why are you talking about this? And why, like that session wasn't bad. Like the client was just being the client. Like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? And I'm just watching myself, like literally having this out of body experience, like in this office. I can still kind of like see what the office looked like. And then I went back and I was like, oh, and I remember, and thankfully I had a wonderful thing. I went to my agency supervisor who wasn't a clinician, and I said, oh my gosh, this just happened. I think this is burnout. Like, and I'm so sorry I didn't figure out sooner. Like, I'm just like, here's the piece. Like, and she's like, cancel all your clients. Like, how many days off do you need? What needs to happen? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get a massage and I'm going to journal and I'm going to figure out what's happening and how not to have this happen in the future. Most therapists, like I'm like, I'm thinking of her right now, like, oh, I'm so Rochelle Curry. So appreciative of her. Like most people, when they hit that, they were not given any kind of word or languaging. Like, and I couldn't even, I wonder, honestly, I had a friend who, her thesis, Jill Coxon, her thesis was on burnout in grad school. So I wonder if there was something that I got from osmosis from her, of like her talking about burnout. And I remembered like being like, I don't really get it. Like there was something about it that didn't quite connect, but apparently enough of it got in my brain that like, what if I hadn't had that? Like, would I have just started to think like maybe this isn't the profession for me? Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Would I have just gone home with a lot of shame? Like, what's happened to me? I thought I was a healer. I thought I was a helper. Like, what would have happened if I hadn't had that supportive network around me? And after that, I had experiences of places that were not supportive, but I had this like solid, almost like parenting, that I hadn't experienced in my own life. But like in this work thing, I had these like this wonderful like work mamas who said, hey, you know what, you deserve to take care of you. It's okay. I could call in and say, I need a mental health day. I'm having a problem in my relationship and like I don't have it today. No problem and no shame at all. But most of us don't get that.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm in interview mode. I love to ask. We're both interviewers. So what did investing your energy and your resources and your attention on creating this book and getting it out into the world, what did that do for you? Because people are listening like, should I write a book? What,
Yeah.
like, maybe I'm like Miranda, where I've never really thought about it. Maybe I'm like, oh, I'm one of those people that always wanted to do it. You weren't burning to do it, but what did you get out of the process?
I think there's a couple of things. I think one of the pieces that I learned a lot about asking and receiving help. Like finding you as a publisher, finding you as an editor, that place of reaching out and saying, I know how to do all these things, but I don't actually know how to write a book. I know how to write. I know how to write. I know how to communicate. I know how to teach, but that's different than writing a book. And if you're sitting thinking, well, what do I write? Or how do I start it in these chapters? If you're kind of stuck in the minutia of it, then you can't really be in like the passion of it. And I think that accepting help was really important. I think that other piece too that was really powerful for me, and I've experienced this in other places, but there's something about the book in particular. It really reminded me of doing a thesis. That ability to look at something again and again until you kind of are like, I don't know if this is doing anything. I don't know if this is any good. Like at a certain point, like reading over the same thing over and over again, you start to like really kind of lose faith and hope, like which I know is a normal process. Like I understand that, but it was really a space of like, and again, I think trusting in you and trusting in the process of, I know that this is just the way that it is, and I'm going to trust when my publisher says yes, this is really good and it's ready to go, that it is, and let that be enough, and move out of that process of it. Of just, I could still probably go in and edit or add. And I think that's the other part too, is I'm a huge adder. I love to add things like our courses. I'm like, oh, we could do this new thing and we can make this bonus. And I just want to give people everything. And that portion of like editing down and saying, but what's really essential? What's really essential? What's really essential? And having somebody outside of my head do that, I think was really important. Yeah, I think that was really important. And I think that other piece too of, again, just learning that there are still other ways for me to teach and have impact. And I'm so curious what this will look like, 5 or 10 years from now, as this book gets into the hands of more people, how that will impact. But to be honest, even with the many, 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 many hours that were invested into the book, just having that one conversation with one client that has broken through the blocks and is ready to move forward and to disengage from these, in her case, like really unhealthy relationships with insurance contracts and what have you. Like if that's it, like it's enough. Like I got off of that call and crying, and I messaged Kelly. I like FaceTimed her and she picks up the call. She thought someone died, Anne. She thought somebody died because I'm just pouring tears out because I was so like just seeing that impact of it. Like if that's all that happens from this book, like that's enough for me.
All right. So you serve a lot of people,
Mhm.
and what we're talking about with your reader is they're serving a lot of people, and they want to serve, and they want to serve, and they want to serve, and there's only so much time in the day. And when you're a therapist, your time is your currency, and there's only so much you can go around. I think one of the things that I have found about having a book in the world is that, number one, you can serve more people. You can share with them this body of knowledge where you might not be able to sit one-on-one from them, in a therapeutic setting and serve them that way, because there's only so much time in the day, but you can still serve them, and you can serve them for the investment of $20 and 8 hours of their time.
Right.
You can serve them. And I'll talk to a lot of people, when's the right time to write a book? When's the right time? And I look at it this way. There's like a really interesting rule of thumb that when you are having the same conversation, let's say you're onboarding people, or you're having conversation and deciding whether or not they're a good fit, you're asking a series of questions. Maybe you're even offering tidbits of advice, but when you keep hearing the same questions, or the first 4 sessions with this type of patient, you're going over the same thing over and over again, just different faces. Those first 4 to 8 sessions that you keep repeating, that there is a book, because you're going to catch people up to the point where you're really going to do the deeper work, the more individualized work. But if there's a bunch of stuff that you're regularly working on with people. Before you start splintering off.
It's really a powerful thing. And I'm just so grateful for you. And I don't know that we would have, well, I know, I don't know when it would have happened, but we wouldn't be doing it now. It wouldn't have happened now. It would still be on the list that, oh, we're going to do this. And it was on our list for a long time before we met you. And it was on our list for a long time in terms of getting you everything that you needed. And the fact that you could make that process easier for us as people that do have a prolific amount of writing out in the world already, that you could help us kind of take that and put it together. And we're really excited. We're already working on our next book, and like getting that, lined out and what have you for you. And, it's an exciting thing to understand the process in such a clearer way, that okay, we know exactly what this looks like, and here's the ways that we can put this together. And then we can take this to Anne for what's next for the people that need it. And we've just learned so much, and I'm so grateful for you and Summit Publishing, and Summit Press Publishing. Say it right. And I'm really thankful, and I'm really glad that we did it, and I'm really excited about what comes next. For people watching the replay, if you want to post your questions about publishing, I'm going to put Anne's information in here. If you want resources with the book, I'll put that in here as well. And
your resources with the book are amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to put this in the thing. So I got Summit Press Publishers. We'll put Anne's link in here. And then we'll also go in and put the happy little book link in here as well.
Yeah, we need the book link.
It's an important thing. It's a thing. What's a thing?
Yeah, yes. If you have a book, you have to talk about the book, because if you're not talking about the book, people don't know about it. So how are you going to serve those people?
Yeah, it's a silly thing.
It's a silly thing, but you got to let people know what's available so they can grab it, because it's going to change lives. And I'm not at stage 6 anymore, by the way.
That makes me excited. That's awesome. All right. Well, until next time, y'all, again, keep posting your questions about publishing a book. We were happy to answer and support and connect you with those resources. And if you want to check out our book, Therapist Burnout, Your Guide to Recovery and a Joyful, Sustainable Private Practice, check it out. It's there for you. Bye, y'all.